Caloroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Did you see the NYPD is taking away Trump's gun permit? Stephen Colbert said that he's going to have to change one of his signature brags. Tell you what, I could still stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and, I don't know, give someone a purple nurple. Seth Meyers talking about Trump accepting the GOP nomination from potentially behind bars. If he wins, they won't be able to swear him in on the Bible until that one inmate comes around with the book cart. Wow, Seth again. According to a new poll, 58% of Republican voters believe that convicted felons should be allowed to become president if they're elected, which is up 58% from last week. Joe Rogan making the headlines, accusing Robin Williams of being a joke thief. I've heard this many times. I believe it has been established by others, perhaps, maybe. My lawyers are passing me a note. Allegedly, some have said, I have heard that. Harlan Williams told Rogan, I'm sure he could do anything on his own volition, but I always heard stories that Robin Williams was that guy. Did you ever hear anything about that? Rogan said, yeah, I heard a lot of stories that he was that guy. I think Robin Williams was like part of that manic sort of style. It's like a constant need to have this bit about anything that you're talking about ever. Killing, I think, was more important, and filling that hole inside of him was more important than anything. So he would just do other people's stuff if he didn't have anything to say. Rogan said that Sam Kinison got mad at Williams. Rogan added, he stole from everybody. He stole from a lot of people. If you ask any of those comics from back then, there's always instances of Robin going on a talk show and doing your bit, or going on this and doing your bit at a club. Harlan said, maybe he was just so spontaneous he would just puke it out. Rogan said, that's not real. There's no way. I think he wanted to kill more than he wanted to be ethical at any cost, and especially back then when nobody was really watching you other than other comedians. In the biography Robin, there's a story that takes place at the Comedy Store in 1979 when an unnamed performer was heads of thrown Robin Williams against a wall and ordered Robin to pay him $300 for the parts of his routine he had believed had been lifted, a shakedown that Robin supposedly agreed to. Rogan said, the thing about these people, they always get caught. And when they get caught, everything after that sucks. This is how you know a thief is legitimately a thief. If they're being unjustly accused, they're always going to come up with new material. They're always going to be creative. They're always going to have new great jokes because they're actually writing and working on it. But if it's true, what you see is an initial special or something, or a few things they do that are really funny, and then you see this massive drop-off in like the concepts they talk about, the irony they discover. They don't have any legitimate points when you're like, wow, this is crazy. There's none of that. It all goes away, and it almost becomes like a person doing an impression of the original successful person because they have no creativity. With every thief, you see a couple big early specials or something, and then you see that massive drop-off and terrible performances after that. It's because they're not real. They're parasites. It's what they are. They're vampires. I have nothing to add. I think Rogan just absolutely nailed that. But yes, I have heard accusations against Robin Williams in the past. Dana White was on Andrew Schultz's Flagrant podcast, and Dana let us know who wrote his roast jokes at the roast of Tom Brady. The answer, Bill Burr. Now that you know that, I can hear the Burr in it. Let me see if I can channel a Burr-like cadence. Anyway, Tom, you played for the Patriots for so long, I was actually starting to believe you were from Boston. Then I saw you run, and I was like, nah, he's definitely from San Francisco. Right, you can hear it. Dana said, stand-up is the most underrated thing of all time. If you're public speaking and you F up, you can recover. You F up telling a joke, it's a downward spiral you'll never be able to pull yourself out of because you're not a professional comedian. F that stuff. I've done it twice. Remember, I said it here. You'll never see me do any of that stuff again. We'll see. Neil Brennan talked about some of his peers being elevated to oracle status and said, when I see them being elevated to oracle status, there's probably a protective part of me. There's probably a grateful part of me. And there's also part of me that's like, what? Those guys are idiots. What? Him? Sam Morrill will have a new special on Amazon Prime Video. This one called You've Changed, taped at the Wilbur Theater in Boston. Sam riffs on the worst person he's ever dated, the complications of getting older, and his perspective on everything from cable news to the perils of social media. There is a clip, and it's a good clip. Let's listen.
I was on the subway the other day in New York. I accidentally made eye contact with a crazy person. That's a terrible moment. As a man, that is the closest you come to feeling like a woman in a bar. Like, oh no, we locked eyes and now he's coming toward me, which is not what I wanted. He sits next to me on the train, puts his hand on my leg. There's nothing you can say. You can't be like, oh, I don't like that when people do that. I don't feel safe right now. So I have to get up, I walk away, I put my hand on the pole. He follows me, he puts his hand right above mine. So it's touching. He's just staring at me. Everyone on the train's watching, but they're not watching like they're gonna help. They're watching like, thank God he chose you. That could have been a problem.
Hannah Einbinder's special is out this week. The LA Times did a big profile of her. If you're Hannah's publicist, you deserve your money this week. Esther Zuckerman wrote the article and wrote, when I told Hannah at the start of our interview I'd seen her new comedy special, a look between terror and elation crossed her face. Hannah says, it feels like the most intimate extension of myself being and soul that I'm sharing. To hear you say you've seen it is the first time I've heard someone say they've seen it. It filled me with joy and excitement and anticipation and a little shock. The hour comes out Thursday on Max. She called it her very short life's work. So no press, it's casual. In Everything Must Go, Hannah discusses her bisexuality, her Judaism, her passion for the environment, and her period, in addition to different eras of her life, from her stoner days to her time as a competitive cheerleader. Now, the article bugged me a little bit. They just casually threw in there that Hannah grew up in Westwood, California. Okay. What it didn't mention at all is her mom is Lorraine Newman. Now, why is that relevant, Johnny Mac? You've probably heard the word Nepo baby, and I'm not here to say Hannah's not talented. Many things can be true. One, you can be talented while someone in your family has some connections. For example, dear listener, do you know how to get an agent? Are you on any auditions today? You know why you're not on any auditions today? Because you don't know they exist. The world works on relationships. If somebody can make a phone call and be like, hey, do you mind if my kid reads for this thing? Or, hey, do you know anybody who? Or you're just at a party and you hear of something. Information can help you. If you're just sitting in your basement, you don't know there's an audition today. So, and this isn't to bash on Hannah. This is just in general, anyone with famous parents in the industry. At some point, it helped. I'll switch to sports. Joe Buck. At some point, it helped that his dad was Jack Buck, who did St. Louis Cardinals games. At some point, that helped. Noah Eagle, the sportscaster. At some point, it kind of helps that your dad is Ian Eagle. If nothing else, there's an agent or Ian knows somebody at the Lakers and talks to them for you. You know, stuff like that goes on. Move on, John, before everybody hates you. Chris Fleming is playing Pittsburgh this week and spoke to the Pittsburgh City Paper. Chris used to be better known as Gale, a character he played in the 2010s in online videos parodying anxious suburban mothers. Fleming told the City Paper, people strive for relatability and I don't. I think the fun is, the challenge is doing something incredibly specific and making them see it and having them feel what I'm feeling and then relate to it. I really love that mass communication, the thrill of it. I love that. And also the body goes into a state that's so unnatural. There's nothing like it. It's so unnatural. That's how I'd describe it. Fleming says he's never been to Pittsburgh. For these shows, he plans on using newer material. No older than 8 months or so, Fleming says. I can't do something for too long. It gets really stale in my head. The shelf life is I want to shoot it pretty fast. And recently I've been doing bits. I just put 3 bits out online that I was doing for the first or second time, because sometimes I can get glazed over and dead in the eyes if I'm doing material I've been doing for too long. But in Pittsburgh, I'm anticipating being able to mess around a little bit, as they say. In a big theater, he didn't say mess. In a big theater, you kind of have to maintain a sense of structure. Otherwise, people get really freaked out in the balcony. The further people get from you and the looser the show is, the more uneasy people get. Whereas in a little room, it could feel more like a party or a train that's breaking down in fun ways. After his recent Peacock special, Fleming doesn't wrestle with wondering if he's weird enough, writes the Gazette. Fleming says, I feel like I was able to lean into the esoteric on a mainstream platform that has now freed me to feeling like I'm not afraid anymore. Not being odd enough. And when I say odd enough, I mean hack. I don't want to be hack. I even allowed myself to do a bit about the difference between a male doctor and a female doctor and stuff like that. I don't think I would have felt free enough to do, because I came from this club. It's a burden that's been lifted. Alex Edelman, you know him from the recent Just For Us comedy special, the one where he attended a meeting of neo-Nazis. Edelman tells Variety he was recently walking in New York City when he thought he recognized someone from the white nationalist meeting. And Edelman says, I wasn't going to go up to them and be like, excuse me, do I know you from a meeting of neo-Nazis in Queens? Because you look exactly like this person. The Washington Post has been profiling DC comedians. Hey, Maddie Brennan, what's your pre-show routine? Maddie says, I always brush my teeth right before leaving the house for an important show. All right, tell us about a time you bombed. One time I was visiting some friends from college in San Francisco not long after I started doing stand-up. I booked a show to do when I was visiting so that my friends could see me perform for the first time. When I got to the venue, it was a packed small theater. I was pretty excited, but it turned out that was the show before the show I was on. The show let out and everyone left. My friends got there, and they were the only audience members. I performed to just them. That's awful. When we left, I forgot my credit card at the bar. I was so embarrassed by the whole experience that my friend had to go back in and ask for my card. That's the last time I asked friends to watch me perform. Jeff Cerulli's debut comedy special, Live at the Bomb Shelter, out today on Comedy Dynamics. We have a clip. Let's listen.
These true crime podcasts are so popular. There's one called My Favorite Murder. That's like the most popular one. I'm like, they're ranking murders? They have favorites? Imagine like your cousin died and you're just like trying to get some info and you come across two women having a great time. You're just trying to get some info and they're basically like, look, I know it's like really sad that your cousin like got stabbed and left on the side of the highway, but listen, it was our favorite murder. I mean, we loved it. It was just... You're not topping it this year. I mean, our 3 favorite murders all time, Jeffrey Dahmer's 2nd victim, Ted Bundy's 3rd victim, and your cousin. I mean, that's just, for our money, top 3 favorite murders.
And that is your comedy news for today. See you tomorrow.